whoever's got time right now, let's go do it.
That's yeah, it's like your success is, you know what I mean? That's the, now you're trying to tame, you know what I mean? Like that you're actually very
Well,
successful. It's,
the last year I had gotten up to the point where I had, originally for a long time, I had figured out my quota, right? Hey, this is what I need to make in a week. And if I'm going to make that much, then I need to make the shop X amount. So it started off where I was like, okay, if I do 350 a day, then I'm getting 250, they're getting 100. We should be cool. And then it kind of went up from there. And then the last couple years, I was like, okay, well, look, if I do 600 for like 3 or 4 hours and I do that 4 days a week, then I'm doing all right. And then now I have an artist who works there who's like, I only do this. I only do my thing. And that's all I do. And I only do full days. And I'm looking at that and I'm like, dude, I can make all my money in 2 or 3 days. I can make the same quota and have like a 2 or 3 day work week. So now I'm constantly trying to like, how can I make the artwork faster so the tattoo takes longer, right? Can I design a back piece in 3 or 4 hours that is going to take me forever to tattoo? And better yet, can I design 3 or 4 back pieces in the same amount of time and use that to, that's kind of the offset in tattooing, right? Is how much homework time are you putting in to the hourly? Like it's cool to get paid extra because we're doing so much homework, but at the same time, if you can mitigate that by making that faster and easier and more direct, then why not?
that's I mean, that sounds great. It's all, like, so we're going to take a look. I'm hoping we can take a look at some of your work here in a little bit. But I think
Sure.
that's you're delivering this value, right? So it's almost like, however long it takes is how long it takes, but there's a quality to the product that, that like sort of transcends the time. You know what I mean? It's not so much time based, but your time, as it were.
Yeah.
Your level of expertise and stuff. And I think that that's something that's it's a difficult mix, right? To try to learn how to balance that and to get it right. It's probably something that always needs to be sort of tinkered with, but
I can't stop tinkering with it.
yeah. That's cool, man. I mean, I think that's like that's probably there's an art to that as well, right? There's an art
I was thinking about that the other day where it's come so full circle where like I had so many problems in school and high school and just hated the situation so much. And now like probably my favorite thing is learning new things. And I think that's really holds me back more than anything. Cause I'm like, okay, well, let's try oils or let's try airbrush or let's try painting bikes or let's try painting,
You get a
whatever. It
new
doesn't matter.
hyperfixation and then you're gone.
Yeah, I'm getting ready to start doing rock textures that hang on walls and are just like home goods. It's like, but if I think who was it? Maybe Jesse James that said it. It was like, hey, success is getting to do what you want to do every day. And I want to do different shit all the time. So I think that's kind of standing in my way. I've had a bunch of friends that are really successful talk to me about that and say, hey, look, if you just do one thing, then people can find you for that one thing. But I think I'm going to try to start probably like a video channel or something where I just work through projects and I'm like, hey, here's how we handle this project. And here's how we handle that project. And here's how we think about
yes, please.
These things.
That's the spirit of approval right there.
Right.
It's that symbol of approval. I think that's I can't encourage that enough, Mickey. I really, I think that'd be outstanding.
What's interesting is we think that our process is just so mundane, when to other artists, like it's gold. Like for me to watch another artist process is just like, I could do it all day almost. You know what I'm saying, Amber?
Oh, absolutely. I'm always on YouTube watching like 9 hours of tattooing, just watching their hand motion and how they make marks and how I can incorporate that into how I make marks.
One thing that I did, which is, or that I do, which I would say is I don't know, probably sacrilegious. We'll see if Gabe ends up having any feedback on it. Is unfortunately, I've always felt like, you know, as tattooers, I think we all do it, and we tend to just like sit in the tattoo space and learn from other tattoo people. And it's a lot of like, I mean, I've never done it because I'm still learning. I'm going to school and taking classes and learning stuff all the time. I don't want to just like regurgitate that, but I would say probably 90% of what I do is not tattoo related. And those people are like production people for video games and movies that are like, yeah, like tattooing is very small time for them, right? Like that's not even a big deal. And they're like, you know, hey, I want to go into the boss's office at the morning meeting, and the boss is going to say, I need this by noon and this one by 4, and go do it and get it done. And it's not a lot of ability to like ham and haw and bitch about it. You know, you can either make the marks and make it happen, or you can't, you know? So
Right.
you either have to take the time to train yourself to make those marks, or you don't, and you have to live with the fact that you can't, or it's, you know, it's a crapshoot every time.
I really love
Which
this
only
Queen Elizabeth tattoo you did.
Thank you. But
Yeah,
you know,
the
and
one
that's the lizard face.
Yeah, the Lizzie. Yeah, the more I
Yeah.
look at it, the more I see. That was
Thank
really
you.
even like her hair is like horns and shit.
Yeah, I'm hoping to get into a bunch more stuff like that. I want to get a lot more into making monsters and stuff, but thank you.
I'm sorry to interrupt.
No worries.
Well, I think this would probably be like a good time to hold on a second. We could share some of your work, Mickey. I think that'd be really great. Have you
So just share an Instagram screen.
talk about it? So would you
Here, I
rather
got this.
Instagram or your?
No, I have a folder I can open up.
Let's do that. Yeah, I will.
Awesome.
I will. Let's see. I think you should be able to share your screen if you'd like. That'd be terrific. You could present.
Okay. Let's see if I have desktop. Somewhere I have finished tattoos.
Oh, right there. Yeah. Highlighted. Yeah.
So this is some really old work. I would say that this piece is probably like has to be 2011. It'll open up for me. Is that coming through all like pixelated?
Yeah, it's stunning.
Give me a second.
I love it.
There's got to be a clean one. Here we go. This one's clean. So this is pretty old, but it's like the only piece like this I've ever done, right? I had a tattoo friend that was like, I'll let you do whatever. I'll give you my leg. I want a burlesque girl. And then I took it from there. And then, you know, I'll do a piece like that. And then that'll be the end of it. You know, or let's see, this whole folder is pretty old. This is some airbrushing of my buddy's dad. This is a guy, man, and I would really love to incorporate some stuff he told me into a class, because I remember talking to him and trying to get him to I had just done my first airbrush portrait, and I was looking for some feedback, and it said something about calling tattooing my art, and he called me a whore. And I was like just getting out of prison, and I was like super offended, and I was like, it didn't really know how to handle the situation. And he was like, no, it's okay, dude, I'm a whore too. Like if a gallery asks you for 10 pieces and you do it, then that's what you're doing. You're using your skills and your talents. I'm not saying don't do that. I'm saying be a really, really good one. But don't forget that like what you're doing at home at night alone in your garage and the extra work you're putting in, that's your artwork. That's you exploring, that's you playing, that's you like learning things. When you're doing stuff for commission, when people are asking you, you know, that's what you're doing. That doesn't mean don't do it. That just means like understand that like, you know, if a person wants it a specific way, you should be flexible enough to like make that happen. Or if that's not what you're doing, then fine, don't do that. But You know, this guy, he's they're Armenian, or he was Armenian, they're from Iran, and he used to do artwork for like the Shah of Iran. And if you've ever seen the music video for Korn's Follow the Leader, he was one of the color keys on that. And he, you know, he did a lot of like Captain Planet cartoon shows and just all kinds of different artwork. I have some paintings from him that are literally just like he was painting something else and cleaned his palette in a specific circle, and it made this like, it looks like a sun or a circle of just random colors, but it just everything he touched was like so gorgeous, right? Arabic writing, the Arabic calligraphy that's like imposed negative on a textured background, like just like it's just such a wide range of like technically expert pieces and skills, you know, from computers to physical. But I have always thought about that of like, hey man, yeah, sometimes it's your day to be a whore. You know, if I have 5 people at the door, and tattooing has always treated me like that too. Back to the spirit of tattooing thing is like, if I'm ever unhappy or broke or bitching, tattooing will feed me 5 of whatever I'm bitching about to see if I deserve to not be broke. Right? You don't like writing? Okay, well, there's 5 girls right here. They each want this tattoo that's been priced at $150. Do you want to make rent today, or do you not? Or you want to just sit here and wallow in it, you know? So yeah, but anyway, I do a bunch of stuff. There's some cool skateboards in here. And let me see if I can open this one on a different window. Here we go.
Wow.
Some motorcycle stuff.
Oh, that's awesome.
I don't have a really good picture of this dragon that I did, but I had a lot of fun doing it. Let's see. But I feel like the guy ruined the paint job at the end. So I never went back for like outside pictures. I just finished my job and was like, I'm not coming back. He blew a bunch of flake on it, like in the clear, but instead of like keeping the flake to the background, to the black part, and having the dragon in front, he blew it all over. So it really fucked up the focus of it, right? Yeah, it flattened it out a ton. I was super upset. Let me see if I can find any other cool. This stuff's all pretty old. Couple other airbrushings, some colored pencil stuff, spray paint. Let me find some newer stuff. I really like working with patinas, you know, like spraying, you spray acid on stuff, or spray acid on metal, and design with rust. So this is for a buddy's barbershop. This one's for a buddy's welding shop, Orgasser. Let's find some newer tattoo work. This is on a good friend of mine. Let's see if I can get them both open. Wow, this Zoom stuff is
So I think my question, a question that I was going to have is, is really like, you know, what, like, how would you describe, your style? Like everybody's unique. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a great question.
What? Wait, you're going in and out. I couldn't hear half of that.
Oh, sorry about that.
Was I the only one?
I just wanted to ask you about, like, so we've seen a lot of different examples of your work, how would you describe your style? If like if you had to sort of put it in a category to in some degree, how would you what would you say about it?
I feel like 20 years in, I'm still searching for that all the time, and now I'm trying to focus on that more. I think when I got in, I had a bunch of like kind of older heads that I was listening to. And some of the advice that hit me real hard early on was like, hey, if you're going to bounce around and you're going to be filling a different hole wherever you go, you need to learn how to do all this different stuff. Because if you like to go portraits and if you like to do portraits and you go and work at, the biggest, best portrait shop, well, why would anybody ever get a portrait from you there? Because you're the low man on the totem pole. Right now, if you want to try portraits and you go to a traditional shop where nobody does that, you'll probably get to do that all the time. But you're not necessarily going to be able to go there and pick people's brains on the same topic. So I've always kind of bounced around and I've always done a bunch of stuff. Realism has always fit me more. I think like when I very first started drawing, I knew that like shading was part of it and I needed things to look real. I think like I can remember being a kid real little and my dad being like, just talking shit on abstract art and how like, most art is BS and, the only things that were valid were things that look real. And so early on, that was like, that was my whole goal, right? I want to know that I can do a portrait in whatever medium, right? So it can bounce from pencil to pen to colored pencil, or pencil to pen to airbrush to oils. And then that's like your standard of like, okay, now I've done the thing, I can do the thing, I can move on to the next thing, and so I don't know. I think I'm still searching for my style. I'm trying to lean into the realistic stuff and I'm trying to lean into, now my goal is image creation, right? How much time can I spend the same 4 hours I used to spend on Google making the perfect image? And can I use that perfect image more than once? Right. And not have it be like,
it kind of looks like you have like a, oh crap. It kind of looks like you have kind of like a neo-realism type.
It's kind of like I take pointers from everybody all over the place. I definitely like started with the realism and then got that turned into like, I think everybody gets into it. You start learning about painting, and in painting, they start talking about like, oh, you don't use black or rarely use black. And then we go through a tattoo phase that's like, I'm not going to use black. And then you realize that like, this is part of it, dude. You have to do this because everything's about contrast here and it's all going to fade. So adding a little bit of lines or some heavier edges and dialing back the detail like a small bit. I've been leaning on that for a while. I definitely like working that way. Let's see.
That sounds very familiar to me, right? This whole idea of how we, if you've taken any like sort of academic training in your painting, right? Even like, just sort of for fun class or something, that's usually a thing that comes up. Or you don't want to put black everywhere. I think in tattooing though, we don't want to put the same tone all over the place. We want to be strategic, but you're right. It really is very important, in a tattoo that you do have that as full of a range, including black, as you possibly can. So it is important, but it can take you out of your comfort zone, I think, especially if you really want to try to achieve some kind of like
it's one thing that I've always pursued is just like understanding the materials you're working with, right? I think like the one job that I've applied for outside of tattooing, I almost got and lost to a person with like 7 or 8 years experience in the field. And it was all just like, I think they were making, they were like a product design firm, right? So if you want a DVD, they make your first DVD case for you to put on the table and sell to the board or whatever. And it was all about, how to apply different paints to different products. So most of their stuff is cardboard. Who cares? You can do printing, but certain stuff you have to airbrush and they're making it out of plastic. Well, the acrylic paint doesn't stick to the smooth plastic. So you have to figure out what you can do about that, if there's anything that you can do about that. And like, so anyway, just learning the materials and the rules of each material. I'm definitely a big proponent of like, I love breaking rules, but you do kind of have to learn what, why, and where they are before you can break them properly or ignore them or whatever you're going to do. Otherwise, it's just pandemonium.
So what
Can
are
I,
you showing us here? Could you
I
tell
have
us
a,
about this a bit?
Can I tell you about what?
What we're the image we're looking at right
and
This
after
is
this,
a
I have
thing
a
I started
question.
on a buddy.
now?
Yeah, go ahead.
No, after this, go ahead. This is
Oh,
great.
yeah. So this is just, I drew this on him. I think like we had originally done it more like an eagle and he wasn't really feeling it. So I kind of went back and drew it more like a peacock. But like, I like that kind of stuff that I can just draw it when I can just draw it on. This other one is like some bio stuff I was playing with for a bit.
Oh, I love the colors in this.
Where I had just like gone and taken pictures of like some plant stuff and then took parts of those and painted it out on top, you know, figure out what part of the design's cool, take the little part from nature you like, and then add your stuff on top. And it makes it a lot easier to come up with like kind of unique stuff, I guess. Oh, here's a cool one. Let's see if I can get all these open. Let me close some of these up.
Well, Central, I heard from somebody, I think it might have been James, but they said that nature does not owe you interesting shapes.
Not only that, it doesn't owe them to you, but it'll give them to you all fucking day long, and it's your competition, right? So the way I kind of look at it is like, if I can't beat nature, then I want to. Nature's my competition, right? So like, if I can't do it better than a picture, why not just use a picture? Right? Like if the customer, it goes back to the whore thing too. The customer's looking for a lion. Are they looking for a lion, or are they looking for my drawing of a lion? Do they want a portrait of their grandmother, or do they want me to make a portrait of their grandmother? Because I can do both things. I can copy it, and definitely like if you want a portrait of your grandma, it's less work for me to print out a picture and just copy that exactly. But if I'm going to draw your grandma, it has to look like her, and it also has to look cooler than the picture, right? And it's like, you know, and the same's true with like flowers, right? There's all kinds of gorgeous flowers, but like, if you're drawing them and you can get a little bit loose with it, then there's ways to make it loose and flow where, hey, you know, those petals would never be exactly that way. But because you use that as your stepping stone to get you to, and then added your abilities, skills, and life, you know, flavor on top of that, then so much the better. And
I
yes,
noticed that you I'm sorry to interrupt. It's kind of, I'd like you to finish your statement.
I don't know. I was probably just rambling.
Okay, so I noticed, so speaking of nature, I noticed in your tattoos and your composition that you utilize the golden spiral a lot. Am I correct in saying that?
Yeah, I think it's like I do the spiral a lot and thirds, right? And really, the thing about the golden spiral and the thing about thirds and just to backtrack a little bit, a couple of years ago, I hit a place where I needed to just reevaluate everything, and I started taking classes on basics, right? So I took a class on literally how to draw. This guy, his name's Peter Hahn. This is, can you guys see the browser screen?
Yep.
Dynamic Bible, either the dynamic. You can get this on Amazon, so I don't understand why it's all of a sudden so hard to find. But there's a little red book. This guy Peter Hahn made it.
The Dynamic Bible, it's called.
It's called the Dynamic Bible, and it's a pretty bitchin' book. This is it. And he has a class on it, and the class is like $600 to $800, and it's just like you buy this brown notebook of brown, really heavy paper, and you use either markers or felt tip pens, and there's no erasing, and there's no worrying about fixing anything. It's just drawing and putting in miles and miles, and you're filling up sketchbooks with straight lines and circles and ellipses, and just like making your hand do what your brain kind of wants it to do.
Creating
What was that?
like creating a muscle memory in your hand.
It's exactly that, right? So if it's, I think of it like Tai Chi, right? So Tai Chi is kind of like martial arts, but you do it real slow. You're causing muscle memory to take over. It's the same thing, right? Is like, you fill these pages up, you know, practice going over this stuff and tracing it backwards. This is some weird collectible price. I don't know. It's a $20 book, so I don't know why it's so hard to find right now. But in any event, so I took that class and a couple of classes on design, and what I kind of gathered from them is really it's about hacking the brain, right? It's about humans have kind of developed over a few centuries or a few millennia to notice certain things, right? You think what you think of a face. What can you tell what flat is by looking at it, right? It's from thousands of years of looking at the horizon, or, you know, understanding like what different emotions mean. And so things like the golden spiral and the rule of thirds, I use the rule of thirds a lot, is, you know, it's hacking the brain, right? Your brain is going to think these images are better or more interesting to look at because it's triggering all of these like memories that come from your inner caveman, and you don't ever process that, or you don't really see it, but the things that when you look at it you feel, and it feels right or it looks right, it has a lot to do with that kind of stuff. So the more you can learn about design, about drawing, about the fundamentals, the actual building blocks, you know, the more you're building your house on the rocks.
Nice.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, and I really like the cover of Peter Hahn's book too, like all the, you know, all the little like
it's all basic shapes. Yeah, it's like, hey dude, here's these yeah, it's that kind of stuff. Yeah, it's all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, let me spotlight.
I have it. It's in my car. I was going to show it to you guys, and then I left it in my car.
Well, that's so there's so much information out there, right? And there's so much access. You don't have to go into an institution to find the things you need. But it does sound like you're saying that you have to put in a lot of work.
Yeah, no, I mean, there's no amount of knowledge that you can gain that's gonna put in the mileage for your hand, right? So I think it's Proco. Maybe probably a lot of you guys have seen Proco on YouTube. But Proco, or there's another real famous guy, and one of them has a pretty good. It's the other guy. I'm pretty sure. But he has a really good video on artist block, you know, and he talks about that, where it's like, okay, well, as a young artist, you're probably interested in a lot of stuff. And as you're looking at things, you know, you're trying to make your hand grow. You're trying to look at new things and trying to be able to do new things. But what's really happening is your eye is growing. Your eye is like refining. Your taste is being refined. And now your eye kind of knows like what's good and what's not good, what's more pleasant to look at because it has line work, or because it doesn't have line work, or because it's too busy, or because it's not too busy, or you know, any of that stuff. And getting your eye and your hand to move at the same rate are really hard, right? Because now what's going to happen is now your eye is telling you all this stuff that's cool, and your hand can't do that stuff. So you have to actually put in the time, even if it's just moving your hand. You know, I have sketchbooks full of just like pages and pages of circles. Let's see what this is.
Circles.
And just like pages of circles. This one's empty. Pages of circles, pages of straight lines, pages of just like bodies. I'm really into like drawing people like out in the wild. I don't do when I first started, I was doing the like 2-hour poses where you're trying to do a portrait in charcoal. And now I really just want to like catch people walking by and try to like turn that into something worthwhile. So I'll go out and hit like a lot of, I don't know if you guys can see.
Fun.
Just like goofy people at bars.
Do you have like a daily routine where you draw? Like you draw like every day at a certain time?
No, not at all. Every day I wake up and I draw my tattoo for that day, and then I go do that tattoo, and then I take myself out to dinner and I'll sketch. Let me find any cool ones. I'll go to dinner and sketch and sit. And a lot of times it's just about keeping your hand moving, man. Like putting down ideas. They're not all great ones. Sometimes, you know, I would say 90% of what I do is like garbage. And, you know, it's easy to do faces and it's easy to do people, especially like once you learn those shapes, like it's really easy to like wow people with that, right? People stop investigating whether or not you are able to do any kind of art when you're like, yeah, here's a bunch of people I drew. But a lot of times it's this kind of stuff, right? It's just like a little body or like the shapes that make up a body and how it fits and how it goes. I should have prepared with a little bit better one. And a lot of times it's just like pages and pages of just like scribbles. So, you know, when you get a book, when you get a sketchbook and you get a spiral sketchbook, I like spiral sketchbooks because you can lay them flat. There's no like bend in the center. Start in the center instead of working from left to right, having a bunch of pages at the end with nothing in it. Start in the center and move all around the book, and then you'll have good work all the way throughout the book and garbage all the way throughout the book, but it'll be in there.
That's amazing. And you know, I think too it's kind of like this something that Spirit said earlier, process, you know, and how it is gold for other artists. You know, it might seem mundane to us, it's the thing we do every day. Just sort of seeing your own sketches, you know, it can be anxiety inducing, you know, but at the same time, it's like you show your sketches to people, they might respond in a really like, you know, embodied way. They might be very like, they might find a lot of beauty in these very loose, rough sketches that we all make. And so I think it's, there's something really important about doing that. And so I really like what you're saying, Mickey, about like just keep your hand moving, making time for it. Life does happen, you know, and but there does seem to be a really, you know, important relationship to the work that you make, and then also this drawing practice you have, the sketching, and then, you know, it does seem like you're really interested in learning.
And then unfortunately,
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, like almost none of my artwork is like tattoo related. You know, all of it's like a lot of portraits, a lot of personalities, a lot of like, I like caricatures. I don't get to tattoo that stuff basically ever. So, you know, it's like which part is your fulfillment and where are you going to go, you know, put out for the client. So for me, yeah, bring it and I can do it. Now the problem is like not taking on everything, because when I do that, I'm focusing on customer service and I'm focusing on treating these people right who made my business possible. But I'm not focusing on the clients who are really appreciative of my artwork, right? So like this year, kind of the deal was, all right, we're gonna, instead of being booked out a long time, we're going to be booked out for more choice pieces and more longer sessions instead of being booked 4 to 6 months out. We want, you know, I can put it together a lot quicker than that. It usually, you know, I guess I really understood it early on when I was bitching with everybody else about like, oh my God, this customer walked in and they just want this thing right now. How dare they? And then now I've kind of come full circle where it's like, well, I'm just drawing it today anyway. Like I could say, come back in an hour. I could say, you know, whatever. It's just like, if that's how you're going to be working anyway, where you're doing it the same day, then what's the problem with like just getting it done when they come in, right? Well, normally I think that the problem with that is people, myself especially at the top of the list, just being insecure with what you're drawing or being asked for. And so I need to do some research and I need to do some practice and I need to do this thing. But if you start learning how to put the basic shapes together, you know, this is how a box goes on a cylinder and this is how you turn that cylinder into a cube. And this is how you put another box on top of the other box. And now you got a dragon. It makes it a lot easier to like feel those problems and explain your ideas to your clients, right? It's if you're trying to explain an idea to them and they have visualized their idea in their brain, and you're not able to like show them what your idea is, chances of them being able to visualize your idea are slim to none. So you have to actually at least have enough drawing skill to convey an idea, or enough history in your work to just say, well, I know people, I work with people that are like, drawing is not a part of their workflow, basically, right? So, and that's fine if you have enough work where you can say, hey, I do all my work like this, all my work ends up looking like that. What else can I show you other than like, don't come to me if you don't want it to look like that, because that's what I do. And that's very hard for me. I can't do that because I would get super bored. I worked with a tattoo artist that did a lot of watercolor for a while. He did the traditional tattoo watercolor, put the ink down and then blend the ink, and then we'll put the black down, blend out the black, put the color down, blend out the color, licking the brush the whole time. And a project came up for me and it turned out that watercolor was the way to go, but I'd never done watercolor, right? It was like a portrait. Let me see if I can find it. So I went into the shop basement with this guy and I'm like, hey man, like tell me about doing watercolors. And he kind of explained that to me and I was just like, oh dude, I hang myself. Like I couldn't just sit here and make one move all day and like my entire life wrapped around this one set of actions. There's no way. So of course I had to go, you know, sit down and do it my own way and figure it out. And my watercolor, of course, doesn't look like his watercolor. He's really good at the tattooy thing. And, you know, I like things to look more kind of more messy. I bet it's in this old folder. Nope, I don't know where it is. Well, I can't find that one. I bet it's. And, you know, I think like at the end of the day, that's kind of part of it, right? Is like, am I allowed to, can I play videos on here?
Yeah, I believe so. Let me see if I can. I know that there's a way for me to enable you to be able to have sound.
My
I
daughter
mean, I
has
guess
a
the sound
question.
doesn't really matter. It's just like me painting this portrait real quick. So.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So go for it.
Oh, sweet.
So we could describe it, you know.
Yeah, so like
On podcast.
I just start out with pen and then kind of go with the light colors and let it be messy, right? All this messy stuff in the background is going to give you something to look at, right? When you look at the horizon or you focus on something, you almost don't ever, your brain's not processing what's in the background, right? So having a messy background is kind of the same as, let me turn this off because having like, okay, if you're looking at a person in real life, then everything in the background is going to like drop away and be blurry and fuzzy, right? So by having textured backgrounds and things in your painting that are furry, fuzzy, blurry, don't make sense, your brain's putting that all together as like, well, it could be anything, but in general, what it's going to do is force you to look at the face, especially force you to look at the eyes, right? Same is true when like, if you're like doing portraits and stuff and you're thinking of like a person's hair, the thing that makes it look real, it are the places that are the pieces that are out of place, right? The pieces that, yeah, they're all little strings, but there's a variety in the shape and the flow enough that it's not like a helmet on your head, right? Like a lot of times you draw hair and it like looks like it's sitting on top of the cranium, or it looks like a hard shape on its own because there's not enough messiness, which your brain is already set up to produce or to recognize, right? Or yeah, so anyway, I use a lot of that, of like having a lot of texture backgrounds and parts of the painting that are not in focus, right? Because you can use the parts that are in focus and where the contrast goes to direct the eye, right? So I am putting something on paper that is gonna, or wherever I'm putting it, but when you as a viewer see it, I'm forcing your eyes to go to this place, right? It's usually going to be the eyes, usually going to be the center of the face, but by having everything else on the outside blurry, your brain is making up the information of what that is, right? Doing hair is the same way. If you don't want to do every hair, because how often are you like just staring at every hair on somebody's head? Almost never, right? Like your brain is not catching all, your brain's going to look at another person and know that it's real based on the way that it moves and the way that it fluffs. It's not processing each and every little strand all the time, right? So learning where and when to put focus on different things is, I think, paramount to being able to make images that people like to look at, right? So I know a lot of people that love the detail. They love that there's so much little tiny stuff everywhere, but then you're trying to explain to them, it hurts my eyes, right? It's not me being angry or being mad at you or telling you that this is bad and like you suck at art and this is, hurting my eyes. It's my eyes don't know where to focus. So they're like searching for where to focus until we leave the mess that whatever this is, right? Whereas on the other side, you can have a painting that's completely messy everywhere and very enjoyable to look at. And even though it's a gigantic painting, you're looking at this one small place where they've like drawn all your attention to and everything else is supporting. And that goes back to the design stuff and everything else, right? How can you hack people's brains with your drawings, right? Like how can you draw stuff that looks good and people gravitate towards it? And I lost my train of thought. I'm looking at this other book I was going to bring up.
My daughter has, I like to ask a question for my daughter.
Yeah.
Can you explain kind of what like, let's say you draw something and it's not perfect. It's not the way you think it's supposed to look. What do you do? How do you feel? How does that make you feel?
Good. I think it makes me feel okay, right? So it's hard because you've now lost the time that you did it. But if you feel like, so for me, I'm kind of well known in my circle for like throwing art away. I have a buddy that helped me move a couple of years ago, and we had a barrel fire and we're just throwing stuff into it. And he's like, bro, you're not even seeing any of this stuff at any of these galleries. They do like a first Friday night gallery walk in my town, and I'm chucking stuff in the fire. And it's just like, yeah, well, it's not finished and I'm not going to go back to it. Right. I want it and I want it done. And a lot of times I know that if I go back and try to fix it, I'm going to spend more time fixing it than I would just drawing it in the first place. or just redrawing it in the first place. So one thing that I've done, and one thing that I try to explain to artists at my shop all the time, is it's easier to change your mind than everybody else's, right? So if you look at things a little bit differently, which is that the gift that you have is not the drawing that you just did. The gift that you have is the ability to create, right? So, and you can do that at will endlessly. So what I do to compensate is a ton of thumbnails, right? The more you can just sit and sketch and get that idea out of, like, you're doing a koi fish today, right? Hey, I would think the fish should jump this way, or the river should be going that way, and this is how it should flow up your arm. Or we could do it like this, or we could do it like that, or we could do the other way. And doing 15 little sketches that don't have to be perfect is a great way to get to be more certain about what you're working on as it goes up, right? So you have a customer sitting there and you spend 15 minutes doing 1 minute drawings of, like, could be like this, or could be like this, or could be like that. And then you get 3 of them, and those 3 are your favorite, and the other 12 go in the trash, right? It's like 70% trash. And it just is that way. It's like your next drawing is not necessarily going to be your best drawing. But if you can work on those shapes from the ground up, and then you take that into, like, a more refined, like, 5-minute drawing of what you like, and then you pick one of those that's the best and you build on that. And then you do your scales, and then you do the water, and then you do the flowers where you want them and all that. Then you're not going to get to the end of it and realize that, like, I made the tail too skinny in connection with the fin, and now I have to go back and redo all the scales on top of everything else, right? So by working in a specific order of operations of, like, thumbnail, which is your ideation phase, and then getting to, like, a finished drawing later, it's a lot easier to have finished drawings that you're happy with, and you don't have to go back and mess with a lot, than it is if you just sit down and you're like, hey, I got to do this thing, and that's the thing I'm going to do next, and this page in my sketchbook is the day I drew that thing, and it's just a one-shot deal, right? I'm 20 years in, I can't do anything in one shot.
So thumbnails, that's a good way to just kind of get all your ideas out there, and just that's when you kind of work out the kinks.
Yeah, you do it early in the process.
What if because my issue is I'll normally only have, like, 1 image in my head, so I'll just do that little. So I'll think that I shouldn't do thumbnails because I just have that 1 image in my head. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's going to lead to a lot of, like, when you get done putting in all that work, you're like, damn, something's missing, or something's not right, and I don't really know what that is. And I was taking a class on caricatures, and the guy was talking about that, where he's like, yeah, if you just sit down and you do this face, like, chances of you hitting it are pretty much almost nothing, right? We're not using any rulers or scales or anything, or grids or anything like that. But if you do 50 of them and you do them all in 30 seconds or less, then you're out 25 minutes, and one of those is going to be better than all the other ones, right? Whether that one's great or that one's finished, or you need to get to drawing 101 to have something cool. You have to get the garbage out of your way. What if it's your 1010th drawing that's, like, your favorite one? Well, you have to do 1009 to get them out of the way until it starts getting cool and working itself in. And usually that stuff's going to happen without you noticing, right? Like, all of a sudden it's like, oh, actually these pieces are pretty good. And you're just like, well, I've just been plugging away at this thing. And I think early in my career, I was really focused on, hey, how can I airbrush, and how can I do these paintings, and how can I make these bigger things, and how can I, make people look, and how can I do cars? And I was really interested in all that. And then, 15, 16 years in, I'm taking a class that's like, okay, fill your page with 3 different length straight lines, and then trace them forward and trace them backwards. But you don't have to trace them, in the book, the way they teach it is like, you only have to draw them forward, because in drawing and on tablets, you can just spin the design. So if you have one straight line and one curved line in your strokes that really work for you, you just lean on that. In tattooing and painting cars and stuff, you're gonna have to go forwards and you're gonna have to go backwards. So that's really the only way I've kind of like edited the exercises for me, which is just like, you know, train your hand where to go. What, you know, what if you're going to tattoo and you never learn how to draw, right? You at least need to train your hand to go where your eye is telling it to go and to like follow the line. So, you know, it's impossible to go wrong. So I think now, like, that's my big thing now, is when people come and ask me about tattooing or about how to tattoo or anything, I stick them on basics that will make them quit. Like, if you want to draw something more than triangles and squares and straight lines, like, you can go do that. But like, I need you here to be able, you know, when people walk in, I have this little black and white thing and I want it on me right now. Like, that's how you're going to get your start. So, you know, you got to be able to do that. And I think that's pretty, I think that the basics are much overlooked. Like, we all get very excited about creating things, and we get excited about this object that we're creating and not growing our ability to create the object, right? If that makes any sense.
And I always thought that you had to go to school, you know what I'm saying? You know, I just thought that you just had to go to school in order to be the type of artist that you wanted to be. I thought that art school made you that.
I definitely, so I was in that same boat, and I looked into a couple of art schools when I was living in LA, and, you know, there's a lot of them, especially the big art schools, right, are like cake design and interior decorating, and there's not a lot on like drawing school. But then there's in LA, there's a couple of schools that are like focused on drawing. They're smaller. I go to the video game places, man. So there's a place I go to online called Schoolism, and you can have, I think, a subscription to all their videos is like 10 or 20 bucks a month. And the people, there's one of my favorite classes on there, this guy that does gesture drawing, right? And so he's teaching, and basically you're just watching somebody that's doing yoga the whole time, and you're trying to take these poses down to like a line of action, a simple line, or a shape, right? Like, how can I describe this line or this person's action or mood in a shape? Well, the guy that teaches the class made the little light that comes out and squashes the eye on the Pixar opener, you know? So it's like, how can I take this inanimate object and make you and draw it and make you feel an emotion? Right. And that's really what I want to get into and learn. So anyway, so a class at Schoolism is probably, I think, about $1,000 to $1,200 to get the feedback from the instructor. A subscription is $200 a year, and you have action on all the classes. Now, actually getting yourself to sit down, I can't do it. It's hard for me to get through a whole class without having the instructor feedback of like, the instructor feedback is important. The deadlines are also important, right? This needs to be done this week. Yeah, so is that the CGMA class?
Yeah.
Yeah. So CGMA is a pretty good school too. I do that also. That's where I found Peter through. But
so
I think
the dynamic sketching number one.
Well, look him up. Look him up, because he does one on Discord that's like he goes through the class privately. So you might be able to do it on there with him, or you might be able to do it privately. Everybody that's doing art's trying to teach, dude. Everybody needs to hustle off their art. So everybody's like, everybody and their mom has like, hey, I'm putting out my skills for people to learn.
Hey,
guess what?
I froze. I just heard last thing I heard was you said Discord.
I said what?
Last thing I heard you say was you said he has one on Discord.
Yeah, so just look up Peter. Let me see. I'll try to find it for you. Peter Hahn. So I forget.
PeterHahnStyleArt.com.
Yeah.
Looks like so.
It's Peter Hahn stuff. Yeah. So if you do the CGMA one, my only recommendation is just try to do the one with Peter, because everybody else is a student, you know. Everybody else is somebody that's just been through the classes a lot and is ready to teach. And so what they do, they record the class. You get a week worth of instruction, and then you do your assignments, and every student gets 15 to 20 minutes of feedback on your work. Now on Peter Hahn's, on the Discord class, we did this all, I think it was like Monday nights, and it's like a 3 or 4 hour class where it kind of goes through over everybody's work. So you get to see.
It's Mondays, sir?
I don't know. I did it a couple years ago, so I don't know what the current schedule is.
Sorry. Cool.
But definitely art gallery and online classes.
So I'm thinking this is the one right here that you were referring to, that you took $800, and then this is the one for 2,000 for the mentorship. Is that what you?
So on his website, they have a thing that says sit in seat, and I think that just means that you like go with it. Dynamic sketching with Peter Hahn. So yeah, $800. The sit in seat, I think you just don't get feedback is the difference. But I guess we can look. A sit in position, you have access to all the content, but you're not unable to get homework feedback as a fully enrolled person. But you save $600 on the class, you know. However, you can save an extra $170 from that by like getting the book and working through it and getting feedback on it. You know, break it up into sections. And then, you know, early sections in the book, the drills are like, you should just do that when you start drawing every day. You know, fill up a page of straight lines and a page of ellipses. Well, at the end of the, you know, a year, if you do that every day, you have hundreds and hundreds of pages and hundreds and thousands of like repetitions that you build up by taking 15, 20 minutes out at the beginning of your day to make things look right and proper, you know?
Mm-hmm.
No, I really love this, and I think there's something really important about what you were saying in regards to thumbnails, in regards to just having this practice that it's not for anyone else necessarily. You know, there's this sort of an expenditure, if you like. You know, you are expending all of this energy, this resource into something that's it's almost like fertilizing the soil, though, so that way something new can emerge out of it later. And you just have to trust that process. That can be a big hurdle, I think. So having people who, you know, in a mentorship role are helping you to sort of see the value in doing these things that are not deemed valuable, that's so crucial. And so it's really important, the things you're saying, you know, like take the time to do those little thumbnails, especially if you only have one idea. You know, that's the best time to do all those thumbnails, right?
Yeah,
And again,
well, and as much as you can, you know, they call it Peter Hahn talks about it a lot. There's a bunch of other who's the other guy that's not Proco? They talk about drawing through a lot. Or if you guys know who Scott Robertson is, Scott Robertson is like the artist. Let me find some of his shit. And so he used to do like, I think like free tip Fridays or something, where he would put out a video every Friday. And he does all kinds of stuff, but he's really known for his technical drawings, and like cars and spaceships and drawing things, you know, from the base up. So one of these pages like this is small. This stuff's all probably like this whole page is probably not a whole page. It's probably like 8-inch square or something, right? He draws everything really small and very clean. A lot of like discussion and topics on line weight, a lot of discussions and topics on like drawing all the way through everything, right? Like,
dang, that's dope. Look at
this
that.
circle goes
That's so
all the way
cool.
through, you know where this thing is, even though there's stuff in front of it, because you're going to come back later and you can clean that all up, right? So like drawing through is this kind of stuff where it's just like, I have these lines that go all the way back. I have these circles that go all the way around. You can see the back of this tire as it comes through here, and it's in proper perspective. And, you know, I think where I used to fail a lot is like trying to sit down and make the perfect thing out on my first run every time, instead of like, hey, how can I just play for a while? And I have to play in this way with these rules, and I have to make these shapes. But, you know, now I really try to sit down and not have a idea of what I'm going to do, right? I try to sit down, I'm sitting down with different tools and making different shapes. And then later on, I can worry about drawing that shape perfectly and, you know, telling it what to do. I wonder if this will open. Let me show you guys what I'm kind of dealing with now. It doesn't always work on Zoom, so let's see.
I've heard it said fail
Hey, ZBrush.
fail again better, right? So
Yeah,
ZBrush.
amen. Yeah, ZBrush. So let me open random dude. No, don't save it. So there's these things called VDM brushes, right? And what that means,
sorry.
don't worry about it, is so like you can sculpt something on a plane and then you can put it down again later, right? So, and then you can use that as a brush. So these kind of came with it. So you can just pull out whatever shape you want, right? So this is one I made. Let's do this guy.
Oh, that's kind of cool. You can build your own shapes and then see how the lighting works and stuff on them.
Yeah, well, you see how the lighting works, and you can twist them, you can turn them. These are making it so that it projects straight back to the body. But when I sculpted it out originally, the VMs, they have depth, so you can actually, the idea that I'm having now, or the idea that I'm trying to work with, is you go into nature, take photos of stuff until you find cool shapes that you like. Take the most raw idea from that shape, right? A couple of lines, whatever it is. And then bring that into your drawing software, whether you're going to use 3D, 2D. I'm trying to do 3D because I want to draw this shape, and then I want to be able to reuse that shape 80 times. And then I want to be able to change and grow or shrink that shape as I go. Let's see. But instead of drawing this like up both sides of this guy's body, I just had to draw it one time. And then now I can use it as many times as I want. I can replace, you know, all this stuff. So, okay, cool. So you go through here and you make whatever your design happens to be for the day. And then, yeah, you can start with that. You can come in and sculpt on that. Let's see, where's my... So let's then you can sculpt on that, put in, take out, do whatever you want, and then you can turn it in space, right? So it's not just about really like laying it out on a person. If you were to make something that was, so I'm in a class right now that is all just how to use the program. So we're not really doing any like super crazy finished products. But so say you have to draw out a Nagas queen or a monster or whatever it is, right? So, or Medusa, I do Medusa a couple times a year. You can make this and then you can light it and then you can move it. So you can make multiple pieces that are lit multiple ways. Let's see if I can change the lighting. From the same design, right? So if you have a koi fish, obviously like, so you could rig it so it swims, but even if it was one fish in one position, right? You could use that same fish. If its body's in the same position, you can rotate it and move it so that it's turned the right way, and you can light it so it's lit the right way. And then what you have to do is you have to do the scales and the proportions and just making sure everything's right within your scene. The other cool thing about this is if I were to say, go through here and make like a koi fish, I could position it one time, save it as a brush, position it a second time, save it as another brush, position it a third time, save it as another brush. You can do that 7 or 8 times. You never have to draw a koi fish again, right? You're drawing it one time. You're focusing on drawing it one time perfectly. And you're focusing on how are the proportions and shapes laid out. Then how is the position laid out? Then you're like sculpting down the final stuff at the very end when it gets to the point where everything else is built up. But if you take the proper time to do all this stuff, then you might not ever have to do that one thing again. Right? So that's really my goal right now, is like, hey, how can I use this software and these programs to make, even if it's like a back piece that's like a head and a hand, right? You make one head, one hand, and you can turn that 3 or 4 different ways and light that 3 or 4 different ways and put 3 or 4 slightly different backgrounds behind it. And you have 4 unique back pieces. Now it's going to take you a day to draw it from the beginning, from the ground up, and another day to get it sculpted and lit and rendered or anything else you need. But then you can just project it on 3 or 4 backs.
A lot better than a week.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and the long term of like, oh, can I just like break out this shape, you know? Like, hey, Sally, I know that I have a haunted house coming up in around Halloween, right? Well, if I sit down and I do 20 thumbnails, so you start bringing all this stuff together, right? So you sit down and you do 20 thumbnails of houses, and then you break that down into like, hey, these 5 are cool, and you make them into silhouettes that are just black, and then you go into Procreate or you go into Photoshop or whatever you want, and you start playing with those silhouettes. So just the black silhouette is like you're shaping it in a way where your hand didn't draw that, but it's still your thing through using the liquify tool or transform and warp or whatever it is. And then you use those silhouettes to come into a different program and make it in 3D, where you can make that house unique, and you can also turn that house in space. Well, if you do that in a way that you can get through it pretty quick to get to a final design, well, you might wind up at the end of that process with 3 similar but unique houses that you can turn 6 different angles. These could be backgrounds and all kinds of stuff, right? Where you're just saving time on, like, you know, say the next person that wants a Little Red Riding Hood thing needs a scary house in the background, but it doesn't have to be, you know, you don't want to rip off your original customer that got it, but at the same time, this is your thing that you drew. And if you can light it and turn it differently and it's a unique shape and a unique design, then whatever. I've tattooed multiple, I could do multiple drawings from the same picture. And now if I could do multiple tattoos or multiple pictures from one drawing, then that would be even better.
A lot of potential, you know what I mean? For you know, making things efficient, but making things, like you were saying, like this creates a reference for you that you may not actually be able to get any other way. So
absolutely,
there is kind of a unique opportunity, I think, and so it is exciting. I think so. One thing that I had, like, sort of on my questions list, something that I wanted to talk to you about was, I wanted to talk to you about your shop, and, you know, and the guys, you know, and all the people that work at your shop. Maybe just sort of ask you about, like, the, you know, the culture, you know, like what is it that makes Montana Tattooing Company, you know, the place that it is.
Well, that's currently changing. I'm trying to change that a little bit. So I've always been a street shop guy. I've always worked in street shops, and I've always probably not always been about customer service. It probably took me like 6 or 7 years to realize like what a big deal customer service is. And when I built the shop, I was, you know, like I said, I'm highly into learning. So I'm very much about like having the space there to paint and having, you know, the tools there to teach everybody basically anything they want or anything I could ever, you know, anything that I know. I don't know that anybody else has ever finished a painting there. It's throughout the life of the shop, you know, like that's just not, you can't force them to do the paintings or be interested, right? So I think you could teach pretty much anybody to draw and pretty much anybody to tattoo, but having the interest to like do it right or like focus on it is not necessarily super common. And so early on in the career, I did, so I wouldn't say pressuring people, but it's a lot of like, what do I need? I have to do the walk-ins and I have to do all the little stuff. So, you know, everybody else should at least be able to do that before they try to specialize. And I hired a lot of friends early on and, you know, trying to push people to do stuff that they don't want to do or they don't feel that they need to do because they're comfortable, right? Like you can come into tattooing and make more money than you've ever made doing anything else very quickly and very easily. And it's easy to get on the like the loop of get up, go to work, do whatever I have to do, go spend the money I made today at the bar, and then go home and get up and do it again. It's even worse now because I don't feel as much urgency to do the drawings, right? Like I know that I can come in here, I can come into the shop and sit down and draw on you or for you, and we're going to come up with something that you're going to be stoked about. So in the last year or so, I've really tried to slow it down and focus more on doing awesome tattoos and producing and promoting awesome tattoos than getting everybody served. So for a long time, I didn't even really want to market because we're just not able to serve everybody all the time. And now I'm at the point where I want to market because I want to be able to scrape the jobs that I want out of a larger group of people, right? Which means coincidentally, we're going to be turning a lot of people down. But the two other people that work with me right now, one is a younger woman and, you know, she started in Portland and she's happy to like be busy and she's booked a few months out. But there's no like, nobody's trying to answer phones or do anything. The door will get locked while tattoos are going on. And like, that's just kind of how it is. And I've gone from really focusing on the customer service to now I have people in there where customer service isn't really a concern, right? Like not being able to serve people is definitely a concern, but everybody's treating customers good. We sit and hang out all day. The tattoo area is pretty open. I felt early in my career that like in private booths, people end up hanging out in the private booths a lot and customers walk in and can't get served. And now I'm trying to change it. So like, well, I'm using the Tattoo Now software actually to handle my nose, to like tell most people, all the people that are calling, hey, you got time today for something small and simple? Like we don't do that. Like we can put you on a list. The boss comes in a couple times a month. Otherwise, just make an appointment. If you make an appointment, you go through the process, you'll get served just right. So yeah, right now it's extremely chill. I'm worried about it because it's not the way that I've been doing it for the last few years, I guess. But everybody has their own work times. So like usually they'll show up around 10 or 10:30 and I show up around 1 and then they leave around 3 or 4 and I'm there till 7 or 8 and you know, hanging out and watching movies and telling jokes and you know, that's it. I had another buddy there working with me and it was like just jokes all day, like just jokes and stories all day long. And that's not it so much now, but everybody is producing a lot better stuff than we had going a couple of years ago, for sure.
So it's certainly like a quality over quantity model. Right?
I'm definitely, I'm at the point now where that's the only way I can do it. And that's really all that matters, even though like I came in a place where it was like, hey, get all this, let me see. Get all these people served, right? This is how serving these people is how you like make these relationships. And yeah, now I'm definitely like, okay, well, what if I just focus on the things that I like to do, right? And I think that it goes back to kind of what I was saying about hacking the brain is what's the stuff that I like to do? My eye is going to naturally decide if this looks good or if it doesn't look good. And how can I really use that to the more I try to do everything, the less cool stuff I do, right? Because I'm doing stuff I don't believe in the first place. I'm doing stuff that I'm not thinking about in the first place. I'm doing like the stuff that the client wants, and the client doesn't know what's cool because how could they? Because I haven't shown them, so they're going to come asking like whatever this idea is in their brain. And either I can do it or I can't. Now, for years, I've been
that's been my problem. I'm sorry, I was muted, but I was
no,
saying that I have that issue as well. Like I don't have anything cool to show the clients. You know what I'm saying? Like I know that I have, coworkers, like when a client comes in, they'll say, oh, I want a Greek goddess. And they'll just be able to rattle off, oh, you should get Odysseus and you should get, Tybalt pushing the thing up the thing, you know what I mean? And
yeah.
And if they say to me, I want a Greek god, I'm like, all right, let's do Zeus. And it just stops there, So you're right. I definitely have that same issue. I don't have anything cool to show the clients or, anything to offer necessarily.
Yeah. I mean, I would say with that, I probably deny my first idea on everything, right? Like I think of when somebody says something, what's the first thing I think of? And then, okay, that's probably the first thing everybody thinks of. So how can I make it more interesting for everybody to look at? And especially if you're getting a call on that, or what somebody's coming to ask you for, do a little bit of research, listen to a podcast, hear a story. And that might be you might, especially with mythology, there might be a story and that's the only story that you listen to, but because it's slightly more in depth than what the customer knows, they're going to think it's rad,
Yeah, that's real. Yeah, I'm definitely going to take this class that you've been talking about, the Peter Hahn. I'm a searcher. Like I just always have been seeking truth, and it started out as like a spiritual journey, but now I'm kind of putting all of that curiosity of mine into art, and I've just decided that like art is just going to be what I do for the rest of my life in all its forms, and
I think art could be a spiritual journey as well.
Absolutely, Amber. Absolutely. The first art was in praise of the God that they worshiped. So I think that's a great point, Amber.
I think this has been an incredibly fascinating conversation, and Mickey, I am familiar with your work slightly, but I got to see so much more today. So I really want to thank you for sharing everything that you did, and your knowledge, your experience.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Of course, and so obviously you're always welcome to to pop in and say what's up. Sometimes we even draw here.
Yeah, I definitely will.
Sometimes we get to draw, but also, what? It's invaluable. These sort of conversations that sort of come up, and it's the ability that, or the the access that people had to be able to sort of to talk to you. I think it's been really beneficial, not only to us here, but of course the people that that watch us. Because people watch the show. It's amazing to me every time that I that I know
Yeah,
it,
right.
like, somebody's watched this thing. It's it. We're just having a good time. Like,
Well, thank you very much. Yeah, I think I'm gonna try to. I don't mean to cut you off.
no, please.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna make a couple of videos and start talking about, especially thumbnailing. I think that that's like a real big thing that most of us kind of like skip over, and it's like,
Mhm.
So thumbnailing and tattooing with technology or incorporating certain stuff that you wouldn't otherwise be able to. We wouldn't, sitting down and doing a drawing and making that drawing be your drawing for the day is a pretty tall order if you really think about it. If that's not like the language that if whatever you're drawing is not the language you usually speak, then
Yes.
it can be hard. But you can also use reference to make 15 different things from one picture. And I think the more that we focus on creating the trash, then the less you have to worry about, is this drawing that I'm doing right now trash? If that makes sense.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Makes
Because
sense.
you just know, like, okay, I got the garbage out. I can explain my ideas with a pen and a paper to anybody in any language. And yeah, I think the ability to draw is very important. I think that like being able to use the tools that are here for us is also super important. And I think a lot of us are scared of doing that in tattooing.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of fear to overcome, but if you're in this field, right, you already, you already have a certain bravery about you, you know what I mean? And maybe even just a little hint of delusional, ness.
Yeah, right.
We all got to have it, right? How the hell how did we get here? But I think that's, I can't encourage you enough, like, you're a fantastic artist.
Thank you very much.
A
I really
brilliant
appreciate it.
mind, a great mentor, Mickey Schlick, everybody. Thank you so much
Thank you guys very much. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Thanks for coming on, Mickey. This was great. I learned a lot.
Thank you. Yeah, I had a good time.
Thank you. So, Mickey, you got any upcoming like stuff you'd like to plug? You know what I mean? Anything that you want to promote while we got you here?
I think for right now, I'm just doing, I think, just Paradise is all I have going on.
Are you gonna be at Paradise?
I'm gonna be at Paradise, and I think I'm gonna try to get a YouTube channel going. And we'll see. I might do it. Yeah, I might do it on my thing, or I might actually. I've been thinking a lot about rebranding everything, right? So I can split it all up into like the sketches go where the sketches go, the sculpts go where the sculpts go, tattoos go where the tattoos go, instead of just having one page that's kind of like everything. So if I change any of that, I'll definitely come back in and share that with you guys.
And Mikhail, close that door, please.
Yeah, no,
Thank you.
give us an update. We'd love to, we want to keep up with you. And so, yeah, so that's for everybody, right? If you're going to be at Paradise, right, you can find Mickey tattooing at Paradise this year. So that's outstanding.
Standing around at least.
I bet you'll be busy, man. So, but right. So here at the end of the show, we like to do a couple of, like to do our sign offs and, here, I'm gonna let me take over the screen again, and let's see. I'm gonna take over the screen, and
sorry.
No, you're all good. I'm gonna have I want to have Amber give us a sign off. So Amber, if you could let us know who you are and where we could find you.
Well, first of all, this has been an awesome show. I really enjoyed all the information I got out of it. And thank you, as always, for hosting, James. And thanks, Mickey, for coming in and giving us your insights. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. And anybody that ever wants, I will basically talk shop about tattooing and art at will. Fucking send a message and I'll be there.
Awesome.
I'll probably be cussing a lot, but that's okay.
I cuss like a sailor and a trucker had a baby.
Hell yeah.
I'm from New Jersey. It's in the water.
Yeah, right. That's what I hear.
My name is Amber Mordain, and you can find me on all social media sites under Amber Mordain.
It's terrific. Amber, thank you so much for coming again. It's just great to see you every week and great to keep up with you. And I hope that you can make it again next week.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing you again. So thank you so much. Spirit is busy right now.
Oh, yeah, I'm
Hey, what's up?
cleaning up. Hey, what's up? I'm cleaning up old crusty dookie from my German Shepherd. Long overdue. You know, when you're a tattoo artist, you know, sometimes you kind of let things fall by the wayside because you're doing a whole bunch of cool stuff. You know, so you let the dookie dry sometimes. So yeah, you can. This has been definitely a great episode. I'm really, really glad that I joined in. I really learned a lot. Just the thumbnails is really important, and just that putting shapes in a certain way is beneficial to the human eye. Is the beneficial to the collector's eye anyway. And so I really like, every time I learn from a better artist, they're always say, go back to basics, go back to the fundamentals. And it's that I'm definitely going to take from this. And yeah, man, thanks so much, Mickey, for coming on. This has been great. Be looking out for a message. You can find me on I'm Tattoos by Spirit on Instagram, Tattoos by Spirit on TikTok, and tattoosbyspirit.com. And thank you so much for doing this show. As always, James, it is valuable beyond words.
Thank you, Spirit. Yeah, no, thank you so much. To be honest, I love what you're saying though too. We're tattooers and stuff, and it's not all glamorous, right? It's hard work. You gotta clean the shop. You know what I mean? You gotta clean your house. You gotta keep up with your life. And so I think that's just one of these really important things. And so I appreciate you coming on and sharing your process, because you're learning, like you showed us today, you're learning how to do this. You want to learn the subject that you're going to be approaching. I think that's not only are you going to personally benefit from it, but of course the product and, by extension, your client, they're also going to just benefit from this. I would, just like you said, though, referring to what Mickey's advice was, it's the same thing that I would struggle with too. Just do that bit, right? Those worthless thumbnails that something, unimaginably valuable is, is out of it. So.
And I've also been getting a lot out of and it's something I had to really work on. And that's just something, just calling up one of my artist buddies and talking about art. I really have to put that into, and that's been invaluable as well, because a lot of times you just feel so isolated as an artist, and talking to somebody about something that you're so passionate about, and then both of you, I called Kyle Olsen the other day. I swear I had a spiritual experience. I had to stop the car and just take a moment, after we were just we just filled our spirits, with art, and it was just an amazing thing. And that's why I really appreciate these Zoom calls every Monday.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Mickey, if you wouldn't mind, you can just give us your information. Where can we find you at? Where can we? How could we get on your books? What's the process?
I can be found. I'm pretty easy to find. Mickey Schlick, just about everywhere, or Montana Tattoo Company, all proper, normal spelling and no spaces. Instagram and Facebook, and basically anywhere else you can find people. I'm pretty easy to get a hold of, pretty easy to talk to, especially about professional stuff, art stuff, and go from there. As far as getting on the books, we just do a consultation for them and try to pre-screen everybody a little bit, but usually I take on the vast majority of stuff, especially if it's within my wheelhouse. Hopefully by Paradise, I'll have some more monsters and 3D creations that I can show people, and start really focusing on directing my clientele towards that.
That's amazing. Well, yeah, no. So look up Mickey Schlick on Instagram, Montana Tattoo Company on Instagram. Give them a follow. Love seeing all you guys' new work, and
Thank
I'm
you for having me on.
of course, yeah, no, this was it was really great that you agreed to do it, and uh, loved getting a chance to to get to know you and to work with you as well in the Tattoo Now area, and yeah, I'm really looking forward to meeting you in person at Paradise.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much.
Yeah,
We'll be in touch soon, man.
absolutely. All right, and so hey everybody, I'm James Wisdom. This has been Drawing for Tattooers. You can find me on the internet at Tattooing Wisdom. This has been such a good time. If you're still here, please like and subscribe. Uh, and of course, join us next week. We're gonna have another special guest, Tim O'Connor from 10,000 Foxes will be joining us. So can't express my gratitude enough for that. Thank you everybody again for coming. I want to say happy drawing, right? And we'll see you next stream.